When you work for yourself, every new tool enters a very small room. It enters the same calendar that holds your client calls, your proposals, your invoices, your late-night revisions, and the quiet hour when you are trying to think clearly. That is why AI feels different to a freelancer than it does to a large organization. There may not even be another person who sees the work before it goes out. Your reputation is the final review system. That is not a reason to avoid AI. It is a reason to use it with more intention. AI can give you a first draft before you have fully found the thought. It can summarize a long call. It can produce a proposal structure, a research map, a list of questions, a set of alternatives. It can make the blank page less blank. That can feel like freedom, but speed has a strange effect on independent work. Once something becomes easy to produce, it becomes tempting to produce too much. More drafts, more ideas, more polished language, more outputs that look finished before they have been considered. The danger's not that AI will do your work. The danger is that it will make a weaker version of your work easy enough to accept. The right place to begin is not with the question, what can this tool do? Begin with the part of your week that quietly drains attention. Maybe each client meeting ends with scattered notes and no clear follow-up. Maybe every proposal begins with the same hour of gathering context. Maybe research leaves you with 20 open tabs and no useful structure. Maybe formatting steals the hour you meant to spend thinking. That is friction. It is not glamorous, but it is honest. For 1 week, write down when work becomes repetitive, scattered, slow, or strangely tiring. Do not choose a tool yet. First, learn where your attention is leaking. Once you can see the friction, choose one narrow experiment, not your entire business, not every client interaction, not every file you own. One task. A consultant can turn approved meeting notes into a first action list. A writer can generate 3 possible structures from research already done. A developer can suggest test cases for understood code. A coach can prepare neutral questions from non-sensitive material. The point is not to make the task disappear. The point is to discover where a small delegation gives attention back without giving responsibility away. A useful distinction for freelancers is this. Some AI work belongs in your private workshop, and some work belongs in the client relationship. Here is where you can explore options, compare your own notes, and ask better questions. This is a good way to begin. But the closer the work moves to a public claim, a client promise, a price, a recommendation, or a personal relationship, the more your own judgment has to re-enter the room. AI can help you prepare the conversation. It cannot be the conversation. The final pass is not an administrative step after the real work. For an independent professional, it is often the real work. Read the draft again. Check the names, the numbers, the sources, the promise, and the tone. Ask whether it belongs to the actual context or whether it merely sounds as though it could belong somewhere. Ask a harder question, too. What did my review add that the first output could not know? Maybe it added the history of a client relationship. Maybe it noticed a false confidence. Maybe it protected a private detail. That is the value the client is actually hiring. Clients do not necessarily need a report on every tool that helped you prepare, but they do need a promise they can trust. I may use carefully reviewed AI for preparation, drafting, and production support. I remain responsible for accuracy, confidentiality, quality, and the final judgment in every deliverable. Do not upload information you are not allowed to share. Do not send results you have not reviewed. Speed should not weaken the care a client expects. The method may change. The promise should not. One of the hardest questions is what happens when a task becomes faster? If you finish a proposal in half the time, have you created less value? Not if the time you reclaimed lets you understand the problem better, ask a sharper question, catch a hidden risk, or make the final work more useful. Independent professionals are rarely paid for keystrokes. They are paid for clarity, judgment, direction, craft, and the confidence that someone accountable has done the thinking. AI may reduce the mechanical part of production. That is not an argument to sell your work more cheaply by default. Every bad output can teach you something. A strange recommendation may show that your input was too vague. A weak draft may show that you have not named your real standard. A client correction may reveal context the workflow cannot see. A moment of hesitation can show you what should never enter a system. Do not simply fix the result. Make one note. What happened? What did I change? What should the next version know? What should I never delegate? Over time, this becomes a personal operating system, not a perfect collection of prompts, but a memory of how your work actually works. Some parts of work are difficult because they are supposed to be difficult. Telling a client that the idea is not ready, choosing a direction when the evidence is incomplete, knowing when to pause rather than push ahead, recognizing that a person needs to be heard before they need to be advised. These are not failures of automation. These are the places where a professional relationship becomes real. AI can offer alternatives. It can help you see patterns. It can challenge your first answer. But it should not quietly become the place where your courage, taste, or responsibility used to live. A good first month has a modest shape. In the first week, notice the friction. In the second, run one small test on real work. In the third, build a final pass checklist that protects accuracy, context, privacy, and tone. In the fourth, decide whether to keep the workflow, narrow it, redesign it, or pause it. That is enough. You do not need an AI stack. You need one practice that works well enough to trust and enough evidence to know why. The goal is not to look more automated. The goal is to become more available for the work that only you can do. The best use of AI may not be the answer it gives you. It may be the question it gives back. What have I been repeating without examining? What am I measuring because it is easy to count? What context does this work depend on? What is the client really asking for? What do I still need to understand before I move faster? AI should turn old answers into new questions. Let it return attention to the work only you can do.